Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sears. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
That's right. My name is Mike P. Waworski, coming to you live from the East Coast. That's the coast with the most, from the co-host with the most, here on the Rundown. 2A views, conservative news, and Craig. I guess we should ask how was your Valentine's Day evening?
You know what? My Valentine's Day was good. But before we get into it, we have to remind everyone exactly what day it is. That would be Throat Punch Thursday.
Guess what
You're
day
right.
it is? Guess what day it is? Who's ready? Throw punch Thursday, bitch.
That's right, folks. It's Throat Punch Thursday. We're gonna have a good time. And
Yeah.
what better thing to punch in the throat than the concept or the idea of Valentine's Day?
Yeah, my Valentine's Day was kind of a throat punch Thursday. You know.
I'm just, the idea that, literally, this is a holiday that has been, while it was not necessarily created by the greeting card companies and the marketers, it definitely has been made by those folks because, man, they just get people to spend boatloads of cash on that day just to show I may have been derelict in my duties as a spouse or as a boyfriend or whatever, because if you're single, but on that day you better get it right.
Yep. You better have everything right. You better not wait till 11:30 at night on Amazon to have the delivery there by 7 in the morning, unless they don't know you ordered it on Amazon, and then you look like a hero.
Like that guy.
Yeah.
It was funny. Early on in our marriage, my wife was really not into Valentine's Day. And then all of a sudden, one year, she was like, so what are we doing for Valentine's Day? I'm like, we're going to wake up, live,
Ruh-roh.
and go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so you thought so. Craig, come on. Happy wife, happy life.
Well, that's the saying. But honestly, to be honest, for most people, and I'm not saying this is true for me, for most people, it's more kind of the opposite. It's more unhappy wife, unhappy life. Because I do know some people who have a happy wife and they still ain't happy.
Well, their life's happy.
Their wife's life is happy.
They're happy. Yeah, and for the most part, your life is happy. See, I like to go with, think about the opposite side of it, where they say happy wife, happy life. I say happy husband. I got nothing. That's all there is.
Nothing rhymes with that. That's why. So they don't bother.
Yeah. No, it's just there. You're just there. Here I am. I'm the husband. So
yeah. Have you ever noticed though how all the pressure is on us, is on the guys? It's like you never see women on Valentine's Day like, oh my God, I got to get my husband something. What am I going to get him? What am I going to get him? Or I've got to plan something.
Yeah. I'm out. Let me know what we're
doing. So what did you wind up doing on Valentine's Day?
Went out to a meal, not a bad place. But, you go to a decent place, right? And now they're overpacked and overcrowded. So, it's already, your quality of your stuff's going to come down a little bit. It was all right. Don't get me wrong. It was okay. It's just, if you ask me any normal other day, hey, you want to pick a really busy night and go out to eat? No, pass.
So I've gotten my wife to the point where we're not going to go out on we don't go out on Valentine's Day unless it's like something that's organized by a group that we know. It's not going to be like at a restaurant because that's crazy. It's way too expensive, way too long of a wait. My wife has just gotten me to the point where she's like, she wants some sort of a gift, like, and it's not a money gift. She always wants me to do like a poem or a letter or something like that, where I've got to be creative. There you go. Yes, I know, me, the poet. But anyway, that having been said, my daughter and son-in-law, look, off the chain last night, cooked us dinner, prime rib, lobster tail, shrimp, and bacon fried rice. Oh my God.
Sound
It
of
was
bacon fried
delicious.
rice. I do like the sound of that. I have to try that. I have to try that.
Bacon fried anything.
Yeah, exactly. I usually keep some bacon grease on the stove to cook with, just because sometimes it needs a little help. Sometimes stuff
Well,
needs a
that
little help. You cook a steak,
my
grill
mom
a
used to
steak
do
and some
that.
bacon.
Used to have the can with the
Oh,
bacon grease in
yeah.
it. Oh yeah.
I
Oh,
like the jar. I like the jar. That way I can visual. I don't have to stick my finger in to see how deep it is. I can just visualize. So, um, Craig, listen, if you're doing anything, whether it be promos for the campaign, or you're trying to write poems for the wife, you heard me the other day. I got mad rhymes, yo. I got them. So if you want, here's a free one for me. Tell me if you like this. Stop me if you've heard it. There once was a man from Nantucket.
yeah. Yes, I've heard that one before. That's good. Thank you.
You heard? Okay, all right.
Thank you very
That makes a
much.
great Valentine. That makes a great Valentine's Day.
All right. Well, let's go ahead. Before we get into the show today, let's go ahead and give a quick shout out to our sponsors.
Yeah, let's say hi to our good friends at Hitman Industries, hitmanindustries.net. Got yourself an AR in the past 5 years, probably got one of their barrels and don't even know it. Well, now you can buy from them factory direct to get your next barrel for your AR, build or rebarrel your current AR platform. That's hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly fighting a good fight behind enemy lines. Now you can take part in California's future today. Check out the California 6th congressional race while you're there. You want the best in concealed tactical holsters on the market? Get on over to hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all one word, all caps, no spaces. Get yourself a nice little discount. And if you're looking for the best in field gear, tactical gear, you're going outdoors, hunting, whatever it may be, you get everything except the gun at uscombatgear.com.
That's right, folks. These are our sponsors. They bring us to you so that we can bring you to them. Do us a favor. Do yourself a favor. Do them a favor. Whatever. Visit their websites. Their websites are in links. The links to their websites are in the description to this program. So all you got to do is go there, click on it, check them out. If you like what you see, spend some money with them. And make sure you tell them those guys over the Rundown that sent you. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get into the program for today. And let's start over here. Let's see, what do we have? Program number one. Now, story number one. We're going to talk a little bit about the shooting that took place last week. Now, you may not have known that there was a shooting at a mega church, Lakewood Community Church, there in Tejas. But the church that is led by Joel Osteen. The interesting thing is that you're not hearing anything about this shooting at all. And there is a reason why. And, that's because there's a whole lot of stuff about the shooter that I really don't think they want you. And that's the reason why we are. That's the reason why we wanted to go ahead and talk about it a little bit today. So let me just pull up. Here's a story. This is an AP story on what occurred. It's talking about how did the Texas megachurch shooter buy a rifle despite her mental illness and criminal history. So the first thing we come to recognize is the person was mentally ill and had a criminal history. Anyway, it says the shooter who opened fire at a Houston megachurch before being gunned down by security officers used an AR-style rifle that police say she legally purchased despite a years-long criminal record and a history of mental illness and allegations she threatened to shoot her ex-husband. Key questions remain Tuesday about Genesis Moreno's motive in the shooting, and police have been given no details about where and how she obtained the rifle in December. The shooting joins others in Texas and elsewhere that have involved shooters who legally obtained guns despite criminal history and mental health problems. Now, Mike, couple of things that the media is not telling us about this story. So first of all, number one, this person appears to be gender fluid in that they have gone by aliases or names of both male and female. Although her biological gender tends to be female, or at least we understand it to be female. I just think it's funny that whenever there's a shooting, if it is someone who in any way can be tied to being conservative, being Republican, being Christian, uh, all that information and whatever manifestos may be tied to that individual are in the news within days, if not hours. Yet, when it is someone who particularly targets conservatives or targets Christians, all of a sudden, all of the focus is on the gun, not the person wielding it.
Yeah, exactly. And Craig, let's clarify here. When you say gender fluid, you mean someone with a diagnosed medical illness. That's what you're referring to.
Yes, they do not know. Gender dysphoria, I think, is the appropriate term and terminology. All we know is we don't know if this shooter, this person actually suffered from gender dysphoria or just decided to go by different genders and just said, well, today I'm going to be him, tomorrow I'm going to be her. But either way, you are correct.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't fit the bill, right, Craig? We need white conservative. We need white guy. We need disgruntled. Somebody with a firearm. We need somebody that's going with a political agenda. Those are all the things that we need for to make a positive, negative shooting, right? That's what has to occur, and that didn't occur here. And so it's the media gets all stood up. Oh, here we go. We got one at a church. It's going to be a score. Oh, no. It's one of ours. Never mind. Sit back down. We're done.
Well, and what's interesting is they appear to have spent more time investigating which pronouns to use for this attacker than they did. How did this attacker who has a history of mental illness, which should have disqualified her from purchasing a firearm, who has a felony record, which should have kept her from being able to purchase a firearm. They still don't know how was she able to purchase a firearm.
I don't get it, Craig. That's why we have the background checks, right? The background checks will stop everybody from mental illness and previous criminal histories from getting a fire. If we have the background check, we'll never need anything else ever again. Oh, wait, that's what they told us when they wanted the background checks. And now we've had 600 more laws since then. That's right. That's right. It's folks. If you haven't figured this out yet, every just one more law is designed to take your firearms rights away from you 100%.
Well, exactly. That is their thing. And the other thing is now have you come to realize the number of recent shootings that there have been where the shooter has identified as having gender identity issues, whether it's transgender or whatever?
Have I seen? Yeah, the only one I can recall is the shooting at the private school. Was it in Virginia, Tennessee, where the individual there? Remember, as they went through his papers and letters afterwards, they could not discern there was a gender dysphoria there or not, but the way the papers were written, it seemed as such.
Well, there are a number, and I'm trying to pull it up. And once again, we're not talking. Don't get me wrong. The majority of those involved in what are identified as mass shootings generally still tend to be males, and that's largely because most mass shootings involve gangs and drugs. Right? They're not people who have lost their minds and have decided they're going to go shoot up that group, whatever that group is. But there have been a number of shootings that are not gang related. I mean, when you start taking out the gang and drug related, there have been a number of shootings that have taken place that actually you're like, it just seems like there seems to be a disproportionate number of, or at least here's the thing. They tend to leave out the fact that they are transgender. And that's the thing that really kind of interests me. That's the thing that kind of gets me, or that they are LGBTQ. Because a lot of people don't realize the Orlando shooter, they believe that was an issue. I think there was one in Denver, Colorado, where they believe that was an issue. There have been a number of shootings, and once again, I feel bad because I didn't actually pull up the full, the list of the ones that they are pointing to. But it just once again, they seem to be ignoring that fact.
Well, I could say that from the Orlando shooter that we know. Now, they weren't an LGBT person, but the underlying cause was that he believed he was gay, but his religion wouldn't let him be gay, so he decided to take it out on gays that he was gay.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into all this, but the funny part is one of the things that they're pointing at in this story is they're pointing to, well, what about red flag laws? What about red flag laws? Well, if the person already had a mental illness, they should have already been banned from owning firearms. If they've got a felony conviction, they should have already been banned from owning or purchasing firearms. What good would a red flag law have done in order to prevent someone who's already prohibited from owning firearms from obtaining firearms?
Yeah, Craig, because the mental health statutes prevent reporting of people with diagnosed mental issues to NICS, to the FBI, to keep them from buying firearms through a background check. So all of the mental health part, unless you've been criminally convicted and sentenced to a mental health facility, that's not in NICS. The 99% of people out there that have mental health facility and get help from that outside of the criminal courts, that's all private records. And that stuff is not reported to NICS, to FBI. So you must self-report that when you go to do your background check, much the same as you self-report drug use when you go to get a background check.
Which, by the way, simply being committed in and of itself is not prohibiting. It's involuntary commitment that winds up getting you. Right. Correct. So in other words, when it's so bad, they tell you, yeah, no, you need some time. You need a timeout. Those are the ones that actually would wind up getting you spot. But once again, this person also already had felony convictions, so there was no way that they should have had access to a firearm. But somehow they did. Funny how that works.
Yeah. We need to. It's the mental health system, Craig. Listen, I'm not saying that the old asylums that used to be in the shady town or out the outskirts of town were the best thing in the world. But you know what you didn't have back then? Crazy people shooting people. Okay. You didn't have it. All right. I remember as a kid living in the city, living in New York, the guys in the van with the white coats would drive around. And if there was a crazy guy on the corner talking to himself, they swooped him up, put him in the van, and he was gone. He got to go live in one of those places for a year or two. And guess what he wasn't doing? He wasn't throwing feces at people or shooting at them. All right. Now, obviously, there were some problems in there. They needed a little more regulation. But opening the doors and shutting them down was not the right answer.
Well, what really caused that was when the courts basically came and said, yeah, they severely restricted the ability to have people involuntarily committed. And that was the real issue, was that once you made it harder to involuntarily commit somebody, a lot of the facilities shut down because people would just, when they went in, they'd get on their meds, they'd be okay, and then they'd check themselves out and bam, nope, sorry, I'm done. And then they'd go back out and get off their meds again. So the facilities didn't have any customers because people couldn't be involuntarily committed.
That was one of the reasons they were shut. There were some other reasons, but for sure, yeah, they should have re-examined the program rather than shut it down.
Some of that came from abuses of people, family members trying, for whatever reason, not liking decisions being made by someone in their family and having them locked up. So some of it was that kind of abuse.
Yeah, well, I remember the ones where the evidently a lot of the staff members like sticking their junk inside those people when they were incapacitated.
Well, there was that.
That was a bad thing. That is, very bad.
It wasn't like there was no reason why they did it. Just probably they probably should have looked at it a little bit longer on see if there were other alternatives to completely shutting the system down.
Yeah. Like, how about you people that broke the law against the people in here? Now you're going to jail. How about that?
How about that? Send them to jail. There you go.
We're the day where we brush that stuff under the rug and we don't talk about it.
Yeah, that pretty much. As a matter of fact, speaking of shootings that have took place, there was a shooting during the Super Bowl celebration parade by Kansas City. And now we're discovering a little bit more about what took place during that event. This, according to Associated Press, it says shooting after Chiefs Super Bowl parade seemed to stem from dispute among several people, police say. It says here the mass shooting that unfolded amid throngs of people in the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl celebration, killing one person and wounding almost 24 others, appeared to stem from a dispute between several people, authorities said. Police Chief Stacey Graves said that 22 people were injured in the shooting, ranged between the ages of 8 to 47 years old, half of whom were under the age of 16. A mother of 2 was killed. 3 people were detained, including 2 juveniles, but no charges have been filed yet, Graves said. Police are calling for witnesses, people with cell phone footage, and victims of violence to call a dedicated hotline. We're working to determine the involvement of others, and it should be noted that we have recovered several firearms. The incident is still in active investigation, Graves said at a news conference. Now, the interesting thing about this is, Mike, once again, now, there are no images that are shared in this story or any other story that I've seen of those who have been apprehended. Now, part of that may be because 2 of them are minors, but I suspect there's another reason why the images of the 2 individuals, of the individuals that have been apprehended, have not been put out there. Can you guess what that reason might be?
Why do you think that is, Craig? Why do you think that is?
I think it has something to do with the ethnicity of the shooters, of those involved.
Wow. Doesn't fit the profile. Don't put the pictures out there. More media bias, right? Craig, you know what I hate most about this story? Is that I don't do the NFL. I'm not into the Super Bowl. And now you're making me pay attention to the Super Bowl. They're making me, the only thing that this thing has to do with the Super Bowl is this was gang violence that occurred at a celebration for the winning team. That's what this was. This was one gang versus another gang, one set of criminals versus another set of criminals. Our group doesn't like your group. We happen to both be together at this celebration. We're gonna do this here. I'll be your Huckleberry. We're gonna do it here. I'll tell you what, Craig. The best place to be right now, though, is in Kansas City, Kansas. Kansas City, Kansas. For those that don't know, the sports teams, Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City Royals, some great sport teams, they're in Missouri. They're not in Kansas. The police chief in Kansas, the Kansas City, Kansas, the mayor in Kansas City, Kansas, they're getting all sorts of phone calls today, and this is what they're doing. Nope, no, you want the guys across the river. That's not us. Sorry about your luck. Click.
I just, once again, honestly, the only reason I'm talking about this is because, once again, the narrative. Most people do not realize that most what they call quote unquote mass shootings, which is a shooting involving 4 or more people being shot, not necessarily killed, but shot. Almost the overwhelming majority of them are gang or drug related, over 80%. But when you want, if you want to talk about the root causes of quote unquote gun violence or violence involving firearms, it's not the gun. It's not even really mental illness. It is gangs and drugs. 2 things that Democrats want to legalize.
Craig, I look at this story, and again, I don't want to be involved in this NFL nonsense. I put that aside for myself, but everything I can see from this story is that, follow me here, you have mass shooting, you have guns, you have Super Bowl victory, Super Bowl party. This is because of the Super Bowl. We need to cancel the NFL. That's the only thing I can go with here.
What happened to the good days, the good old days of the NFL, when it was just NFL players shooting themselves in the leg?
That's right. I was going to say we need to cancel the NFL much the same way Dallas did about 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I have no idea of what you speak. Your blasphemy is deafening. Anyway, moving right along. All right, so if you've been watching, George Santos, the former Republican congressman who lied about just about everything, got removed from the House of Representatives, right? He got removed from the House of Representatives. And then, there was a special election and he lost to a Democrat. But the interesting thing about him losing to this Democrat was the Democrat actually ran on the border and border security. And it was funny because people were surprised that he won. And so on CNN, one of the consultants or one of the people that they were talking to, or the analysts, was talking about and wound up talking about how until really this election, until this point, or until Abbott had started sending migrants to blue cities, he always thought that the border issue was nothing more than a dog whistle by the Republicans. And I want to play that part of the interview or the commentary that they were talking about. So check it out real quick.
Like that in any election I've covered.
And this is after, though, Tom Suozzi was advertising with him on Fox News talking about his full defense of ICE, right? So not every Democrat runs on the immigration issue the way Tom Suozzi did in this district. It worked for him there. There does seem to be a bit of a divide inside the Democratic Party about how to grapple with this immigration issue. But you're right, it is going to be a front and center issue. We normally think of it, I think in the past, John, like that it's just an issue for the right-wing echo chamber. But the whole movement that Greg Abbott did and what have you to bring the migrant issue and crisis to cities, to blue states and cities, that has changed the calculus here. You see this issue rising in importance for all voters.
But does the Suozzi model, is that something that other Democrats are? And look, it's just been a few hours. That's a long time in politics. Are other Democrats already looking at this saying, hey, maybe we can make some ground here?
Yeah, can it be replicated?
Yeah, and there's no doubt about it. And by the way, Democrats were handed a gift by Donald Trump just last week when he tanked the border security compromise bill that was coming out of the Senate and told the House not to vote for it. And Speaker Johnson agreed. That is something that Democrats are seized on. You heard Joe Biden say last week, he's going to remind voters of that every single day throughout this campaign. And Tom Suozzi campaigned on that hard at the end, that he was for that compromise. Mazi Pilip was against it.
You know, it's interesting. Alice Stewart.
So a couple of things, though, that's interesting about his commentary is that, number one, they're still pushing the idea that that border bill actually had anything to do with border security. It had nothing to do with border security. It literally was saying, we're not going to close and lock the front door. We're going to put in double doors so that more people can just come on in. And I think that Republicans are doing a horrible job, not a horrible job. They're not doing an effective enough job in messaging on that when it comes to that bill. But clearly, I think the point he's making is even Democrats want border security, and it is now an issue, a top issue, even among Democrats.
Yeah, absolutely so. I think a lot of Democrats are looking at the border now and saying, okay, this is an issue. We can't stick our head in the sand and lie about this the way the White House and Joe Biden does. It's obviously that the rest of the country thinks this is an issue. We're going to have to take some sort of a stance. Now, whether or not we do anything about that stance, if we get elected, we need to use that in the campaign to garner the attention that we need.
Right. And we have to do, as Republicans, a better job of talking about how the things that they are calling solutions are not solutions. The idea of saying that we're going to spend a boatload of money on allowing them on processing them so that they can just enter into our country so that they're not just sitting there at the southern border. Because, folks, here's the thing. If you are in a blue city, if Biden got what he wanted, you would still have the same number, if not more, people entering into our southern border and coming in and coming to your blue city or your blue state and demanding benefits and resources and all of that. The only difference is that you wouldn't see a line at the southern border. That would really be the only difference.
Right. Craig, let me make a point. This is obviously they're trying to portray this as it was only a one issue election. Obviously, it wasn't. We know that the Santos issue before that, helped to turn people off from the GOP out there. We talked about Long Island this week, I believe earlier, how Nassau and Suffolk counties out there they're purple. All right, listen, it depends on the candidate, which way they're going. Trump, won them in the last election. It's clearly Trump town out there. I was up there in Thanksgiving, spent a week up there. in both Nassau and Suffolk. And I got to tell you, it has to do with packaging, Craig. And this is where you need to pay attention as you're running for Congress there. You know what the unofficial campaign slogan for this guy was?
What?
And listen, the challenger could have used this, the GOP challenger, but chose not to. But his unofficial campaign slogan was, "Don't be Fugazi, vote for Swazi," and that's what caught him out on Long Island. Now the challenger's name is Mozzie, the first name. It could have been "Don't be Fugazi, vote for Mozzie." Nope, but Swazi took it first, and I think that's it. I think you get yourself a little AI Sopranos character there saying that. Boom, you got yourself an election.
You know what? You got a point there. You got a point there. I will pass that message along to my campaign staff.
There you go. There you go.
All right, and that brings us to our next story. George Soros, who has pretty much bought the majority of district attorneys out there, who's invested billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars at least in higher education, is now going after mainstream media. And when I say mainstream media, I'm specifically talking about radio. And George Soros right now is set to control the second largest chain of radio stations. Now it says here billionaire left-wing philanthropist, you mean Marxist, George Soros has been buying up debt to acquire a controlling stake in the second largest radio broadcaster in the country, Odyssey. Court filings and sources close to the situation told the New York Post that Soros Fund Management has bought up $400 million in debt in Odyssey, and the number two U.S. radio broadcaster behind iHeartMedia, with stations including New York's WFAN and 1010 WINS, as well as Los Angeles-based KROQ, according to bankruptcy filings. Soros, K-Rock. There you go. Soros could then have control of more than 220 radio stations nationwide. One Republican insider close to the situation told the outlet that Soros could be trying to have media outlets to potentially influence public opinion during the 2024 election. This is scary, the source said. Now, I know what you're thinking. A lot of people are thinking, well, who still listens to the radio? And you know what? For a lot of people, in particular people on the right, I mean, news talk radio and radio is still a huge source of news and information. It's huge. And they still reach a lot of people. And the shows that are on there, a lot of the podcasts that you listen to, yeah, they're broadcast out of a radio station. So you're listening to the audio podcast of a radio show oftentimes. So it can have a significant effect on who you're going to be able to hear in the not too very distant future.
Craig, and I mean, conservatives know this, right? Conservatives know this. Maybe the left doesn't know it. Soros seems to have been given the key to this information. The mainstream media, the TV media, the internet media, the social-based media, that's all left-wing. We know that. We see that. However, radio, airwaves radio, AM, FM, talk show radio is controlled 90% by conservatives. That's our bastion. That's our last place. That's where we go. We control that. That's where you get Arms Radio. You listen to it there. Armed American Radio. All sorts of conservative radio comes to you over the radio. That's 90% of the regular conventional AM FM radio. And like you said, that's even with the satellite radio and with the podcast now as well.
Right. So this is clearly an attempt to influence the sort of news and information, the sort of commentary that's taking place. Because what other reason does he have to do that? I think it is definitely something to be worried about. It's kind of funny though when they start talking about like the fairness doctrine. Have you ever noticed they're only really referring to like radio? They're not talking at all about newspapers. They're not talking at all about television or broadcast TV at all, or even internet internet, social media companies. They're not talking about them. Literally, the only place they want, quote unquote, the fairness doctrine is on radio. The one place where conservatives tend to dominate.
Yeah, and a lot of that's been, listen, been manipulated, right? And folks, what Craig means is if candidate, Democrat candidate shows up at your broadcast media local station, TV station, and says, I want airtime, that the equal amount of airtime has to be offered to the opposite side. That's what it means. Now, it doesn't say it can't be offered from 1 to 3 a.m., but that's how they're able to manipulate around it. Craig, I just want to put a note out there for George Soros. I'm sure he's watching. He watches a lot of what you and I do. He follows us. I see him on the Twitter following us. Arms Room Radio, the rundown cannot be bought. We cannot be bought. But if you got a number in mind, give us a call. We're willing to listen.
We can be rented.
We can be rented. There we go.
We cannot be bought, but we can be rented.
I'll be bought, but I can be leased to own. Yeah.
You can lease us.
It gives me more rights than a renter. Yeah.
There you go. And by the way, those who currently lease us, that's those folks right down there. They're and by the way,
these guys.
And by the way, we can only be leased by people who, quite frankly, whose values are consistent with our own.
Correct. Unless they got big zeros at the end of their number. Yeah.
Big zeros, large numbers of zeros.
Large numbers of zeros.
Okay, it's time for our parting shots, brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Make sure you use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, and get a discount on your Hog Holster today. All right, our first one here. Now, yesterday we had reported regarding Brandon Johnson and the city of Chicago had decided that they were not going to use Shot Spotter anymore. And this was an aspect that I had not thought of, and this is brought to us via tweet by End Wokeness. It says here, breaking, Mayor Brandon Johnson ends the use of Shot Spotter in Chicago. Shot Spotter is a high-tech system that alerts and directs cops when gunshots are fired in Chicago. Critics say it targets minorities. The contract expires on Friday, but the mayor is keeping it until, the specific date is September 22nd, until after the DNC convention this summer. I didn't realize that last part. I didn't put two and two together that the Democratic convention, which is going to be in Chicago, they're going to keep Shot Spotter until after that has expired.
They might want to consider taking it down to the arena there and use it where the Bulls play. Maybe somebody actually.
Well, the problem is that there are so many down there that they can't. They just know that it's just like it's on all the time down over there.
No, I was talking about during the games that we could actually spot some shots and get the right 3-pointers in.
There you go. All right, our next one. Let's see here. Mr. President, do you think this report on your cognitive health will impact the election? Joe Biden looking surprised. What election?
Exactly.
Now, the other thing is, there's this hardcore conservative, this Republican who's running for president in the United States now that you may or may not recognize. So I wanted to go ahead and show you his appearance on Meet the Press. Check it out.
The world's going to Hades in a handbasket. We are desperately concerned about the circumstance relating to avian flu. We don't have enough vaccines. We don't have enough police officers. And we're going to debate the next 3 weeks, I'm told, gay marriage, a flag amendment, and God only knows what else. I can't believe the American people can't see through this. We already have a law, the Defense of Marriage Act, where we've all voted, not where I voted and others said, look, marriage is between a man and a woman, and states must respect that. Nobody's violated that law. There's been no challenge to that law. Why do we need a constitutional amendment? Marriage is between a man and a woman. What's the game going on here?
What's funny and what gets me about that, Mike, is that there are tons of instances where you listen to him talk and he sounds like at least he sounds like a moderate Republican, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And but you would not know. I honestly believe that there are a lot of Democrats who, when they voted for him in 2020, thought that was the guy they were voting for. They did not realize that guy doesn't exist anymore.
No, that guy got Barack Obama-fied a number of years ago. So he no longer exists. He no longer exists.
Nope. Yeah, no, he has been brainwashed into wokeness. He has been wokeified.
He got the Dane Bramage.
Dane Bramage. Okay. All right. Well, hey, that brings us about around to the end of the program. But before we go, we got to give another quick shout out to our sponsors.
That's right. Hitman Industries, hitmanindustries.net. Now you can get pistol and rifle caliber barrels and any length barrel you want for your next AR, rifle, or pistol build. Get on over to hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly fighting the good fight behind enemy lines. Check out the California 6th congressional race while you're there. And if you're looking to get tactical, need your gear to get it on, you can get everything except the gun at uscombatgear.com.
That's right, folks. The election is coming up. Folks, I need your help. Just take a moment. Go to craigdeluze.com. craigdeluze.com. Donate a few dollars. Help us out. Help us to get the word out. We need to get the word out. We need to get through this primary season so that we can take on liberal, left-wing Democrat Ami Bera in the general election. But folks, that only happens with your help and with your support. So please help us out. Once again, go to craigdeluze.com. And with that, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. With that, we're going to call it a day. We're going to sign out. We'll be back tomorrow on Free for All Friday. Holla at y'all later.